Welcome to the January 28th, 2025 Health and Ed Committee. Ms. Hill reminded me to turn on my microphone. We will begin with calling of the roll, please.
Commissioner Oliver.
Present.
Commissioner Davidson.
Here.
Commissioner Wilson.
Here.
Commissioner Boyd.
Here.
Commissioner McMurray.
Here.
Commissioner Gooch. Here. Chairman Dodd.
Present, thank you.
y'all.
I'll begin with just a personal note. Some of the members of the committee of bus drivers was here to meet with me at 5 o'clock today. That item did not make my calendar, and I want to just sincerely publicly apologize that 4 of our citizens made an effort to be here, and the most precious thing we have is time. And you were here without me to greet you, and I sincerely apologize. So we will have that conversation at the next best opportunity. Thank you for that. Having said that, we will move along with the agenda, and Commissioner Wilson, minutes, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I have reviewed the minutes from our previous meeting. I find them to be in order, and without objection, I move for their approval.
We have a second, Ms. Davidson. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Thank you, Chairman Wilson. Health and Ed Department, Mr. Blair, I passed by you and realized you were a new face. So Director Cumby has moved to a position with the state, I believe. And so please introduce yourself and welcome to your first presentation.
Chairman and Commissioners, my name is John Blair. I am the Assistant Public Health County Director for our Health Department in Rutherford. I'm going to be filling in for these meetings temporarily as we fill Director Byron Cumby's County Director vacancy. As you may remember, Director Cumby was promoted to the Mid-Cumberland Regional Director of Health recently. We're very proud for him, but we also hope to have his position filled very soon. Our monthly report is available on your screens. The Health Department continues to do good work to promote, protect, and improve the health and prosperity of the people in Rutherford County. One thing I'd like to note is that Rutherford County's community risk for COVID right now is low. As is traditional in winter, the public is still seeing respiratory illnesses like flu and RSV. Flu vaccines are available at the Health Department during our walk-in hours between 8 to 10 a.m. and 1 to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday. Also, all U.S. households are eligible to order 4 free COVID tests at www.covidtests.gov. If anyone has any questions about our report, I'd be happy to answer them. I have 2 more things I've got to bring up, but as far as the actual report.
Okay. Yeah. Welcome. I do have a couple of questions. Just curious about your data. Where are you getting your data from? And yes, where are you getting the data from? Go ahead.
So anything you see on there is pulled from what's called our PTMIS system. That's PTBMIS. And anybody who comes through our health department, that's our our record system. Anybody who is a patient or anybody who gets coded, anybody who has, that we code for any sort of procedure or anything like that, goes in this system, and that gets sent to us every month from the state of Tennessee.
Okay, and your COVID data is based on still hospitalizations? Because COVID numbers are up.
Well, the risk itself, according to the New York Times, is still low. Mm-hmm. So it's in the past few years, it has gone up in winter, but they're still considering us a low point of contact.
Okay, and then my next question, considering what's going on with the current administration and the access to health data to the public, how can you ensure that the reports that we receive are accurate information and relevant for the public?
That's a really good question. One of the things that we do is we have so a lot of this data is available in the state of Tennessee, But we also do a community health improvement plan, and I think we have to do it every 3 years. So the community health improvement plan is always available on the Rutherford County website. You can find it on the Health Department website, and you can pretty much see anything we do, and our plans for improvement and stats are usually available in there. As far as the other part is concerned, our previously and always our position would be as transparent as possible, especially when it concerns public health. So we continue to come and give information, but if anybody else has any questions, they feel free to call the Health Department, ask for John Blair. I'm happy to talk to them and give them any information they need.
Okay. And then my last question, again, considering what's going on with the current administration, how will freezing the federal funds, federal grants impact your operations at the Health Department?
So that's another good question. And the answer is, right now, what we've been told by the state is that Governor Lee is very concerned about making sure we have all available resources. And what we've been told is, as of right now, it's not affecting anything we do at all.
Thank you.
I believe that leads you to some grant contract. Is that on your agenda as well?
So there were two separate things. The second thing that I wanted to bring up was, on our state contract, we have a vacant registered dietitian position. This is not part of a grant. This is just part of our state pass-through contract that we do with the state and the county every year. So the state is agreeing to allow us to fill that vacancy with a nutrition educator, which is a lower paying position. So it's much easier to recruit and retain, and this person works in our WIC program. We found that the nutrition educator, even though it pays a little less, there's a lot of people, especially coming out of Middle Tennessee State University, that want these kind of jobs. And while previously in the past we might have 1 or 2 people who might want to be a registered dietitian, I might have 20 or 30 who want to be a nutrition educator. And the way that our WIC program currently works, the nutrition educator can do almost the exact same thing as a registered dietitian can do. So it's not incurring any extra cost to the county. However, in the past, previous county directors have asked for permission from the county commission to be able to drop down and hire at a lower position. So I wanted to do the same.
Gotcha. Sorry to interject, Mr. Chairman. Do we need to approve the report first before?
As a technicality,
Oh, I didn't know if we needed to or not.
you may make that motion if you wish.
Motion to approve the report.
All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Thanks, Mel, for keeping me on task. And as far as this employment position, is there a history that we vote on this with a favorable recommendation to the full commission to change that salary position? Is that what I heard you say?
Yes, sir. We've done this 2 other times since I've been here in the past 10 years.
Okay.
And both times it was brought in front of the Health and Ed, and it was voted on, and
Okay.
it went that way. Yes,
So
sir.
an open position with a pay level or title, a reduction in credentials perhaps generates a lower salary, but there's a bigger pool of folks, plus there could be some more opportunity for a Middle Tennessee person with these other credentials, if I heard that correctly.
Sir,
So
that's
I will
correct.
entertain a motion and then discussion on that.
Does it go to budget?
I'm sorry?
Does it go to budget?
In the past, it has not, because it didn't involve anything, but the state pass-through contract stayed exactly the same.
So it's just a contract, it's not, doesn't deal with money?
Sir.
Okay, move to approve it, Mr. Chairman.
A motion and a second to change of some technical language in the posting and in the certification. So any questions or concerns? Ms.
Yes, I
Oliver?
had a question. I was wondering, does it need to go to HR and steering?
That I don't know.
Sonia Stevenson's?
No, I think not, because this being a state-funded program, Health Department is essentially state-funded or almost entirely. Mr. Blair, do your folks all report to Sonia Stevenson? Are they our HR? Do y'all have any other reporting
So this position, most of our positions, even though it's part of a state contract, they're actually under they're under county human resources. So this is a position that does report to Ms. Sonia Stevenson.
If you're comfortable, anyone, if we want to, and our chairman of the commission's here, if we want to suggest we make sure Ms. Stevenson is aware, by all means, we won't block any protocols here.
I mean, I would ask to amend the motion, I guess, because I would think HR needs to be involved.
Mr. Phillips, which department should we present this to, in your opinion?
I think a simple telephone call from you to Sonia Stevenson would suffice. I don't ever remember the commission ever getting involved in that process. I just don't. It may have, but I don't remember it. Do you, Trey? You remember them?
And relying on Mr. Blair, it sounds like your decade of recollection, the state requests that the commission just be aware that you've changed some conditions of the posting.
Yes, sir. And the reason why was because it was originally part of our state pass-through contract. They wanted to make sure that everybody was on board with Part A, Part B, and Part C, and continuing on.
And then the contract will level up your salary at the end of the year like they normally do. If your salary's up or down, your state grant and your budget will rectify that.
Yes, sir.
If you're comfortable, I'll alert Sonia, Ms. Stevens, and if she thinks it needs to process some other way, we can pump the brakes. Otherwise, this motion is to send it to the commission.
Steering meets Monday, so if Sonia needs input, she can input it through steering committee Monday evening.
So finally, the state has asked us
Hang
to...
on just a moment, please.
I apologize.
Are you content with that? Ms. Oliver will confirm with Sonia and have a chance to run it through steering.
Yes,
if need be.
that was my question. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so, Mr. Blair, we have a motion and a second to move this forward with a positive recommendation to the full commission, with the caveat that Ms. Stevenson have a chance, if she needs to pull it through HR, she will. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Oliver?
Aye.
Commissioner Davidson? Yes. Commissioner Wilson?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd?
Yes.
Commissioner McMurray?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch? Yes. Chairman Dodd?
Yes.
Thank you.
And continue, please.
So finally, the state has asked us to present a grant funding contract for your consideration. This grant is in the amount of $488,500. The ELC program administers the epidemiology and laboratory capacity for prevention and control of emerging infectious diseases, also known as ELC, cooperative agreement, which provides financial support and technical assistance to state, local, and U.S. territory and affiliate health departments to detect, prevent, and respond to emerging infectious diseases. This agreement has no required match from the county. However, it is a cost reimbursement contract where the county pays and then invoices the state for payment. One last thing I wanted to mention on this is that the original contract that we had as part of this was $340,500. So this was part of our CARES Act agreement, and this was a contract that we got signed by the commission in May of 2023. So the contract we've been working with an architect to try and spend that money, and we've been making progress on it. However, most health departments were also working on that and getting it done, but the contract itself was going to expire. So what the state chose to do, they wanted to give us some additional funding, but also extend the life of that contract. So what they've done is they've completely, the CARES Act contract has expired, and they're rolling in that $340,500 along with an additional $148,000 in funding into this brand new contract. So one of the things that they're making sure that we do is that the projects that we do are earmarked that have to do with lab safety and things like that. And one of the things they've asked, the two main things they're asking us to use with that money is, number one, they want us to install handicap accessible doors in both our Smyrna and Murfreesboro facility. The other thing they've asked us to do is redo the natural gas lines that go to our generators that power our vaccine refrigerators. The natural gas lines are fairly expensive to do, and that's using up a large chunk of this money. But anyway, so the $340,500 of this was already in our budget and is still there, and then the $148,000 is new money that will have to, but it's all part of the same new contract. I apologize for that being complicated.
I do recall we had to do a memo of understanding or something to that effect with the mayor's office to prolong the deadline. So we all agreed with that, and it moved through the proper channels. This replaces that. We need to vote on this and send it, I would think, to budget, Trey. Okay. So we can have discussion, or I'll entertain a motion, and then we can discuss before we vote. But I'll entertain a motion on the government grant contract.
Just a quick question. You said part of this money will be used to make the handicap accessible, so they're not already handicap accessible, or they just need improvements?
Yes, sir. That's a good question. The Smyrna facility is not. The Murfreesboro facility is, but the handicap accessible door equipment is also over 25 years old.
Gotcha.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, move to approve the contract.
And we have a second. Any further discussion? Oliver?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Are we approving the contract? Are we agreeing to move it forward to budget? What should the verbiage be?
Trey, would you clarify, please?
To approve the contract and send it to budget.
Are good with that? Good with that on your second? So we will send it to budget, and then from there it'll go to the full commission. Any other questions or comment? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Oliver?
Aye.
Commissioner Davidson?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd?
Yes.
Commissioner McMurray?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Chairman Dodd?
Yes.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Any further business from Health Department?
No, sir.
You did a great job.
Thank you so much. I appreciate everybody.
Have y'all put out position, or y'all have you got applications in, or?
So the state is in the process of doing that, and usually when we do that, a lot of really qualified candidates. So usually the process ends up being a little long. I'm hoping they go ahead and move quickly so we can.
Remind us, I don't recall last time, does that position go through the commission for approval, or we just simply receive the notice from the state?
I believe it's receive. It's a position that is solely funded by the state, decided upon by the regional director and then by somebody at our central health office.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next on our agenda is the community care. Those minutes were published. I haven't had a chance to read them, so if anybody had any comments or highlights, speak up. Otherwise, be sure and brief through those. And if we have any questions for next month, get on.
I did have a quick question. Are we still in the process of, are they going to still keep a commissioner still on this community care?
Yes, we are, and I'm going to ask Commissioner Phillips to help me speak into that. So community care has always had a commissioner on their board appointed by this body, and In previous years, that commissioner was a member of the Health and Ed Committee. And I believe that the timing of reappointment, unless we disrupt anything, would be, remind me, when would the appropriate time to rotate positions, when, next August or September, when we do committees?
I think that's what this committee recommended several months ago, would be for when the committee structure is set, effective September 1st, that a member of this committee also be the liaison for community care. We decided to take care of that this coming September.
Which I remain committed to. I just want to have a reminder that the process we agreed upon was to do it at the next annual rotation. And I think we have some great candidates in this room. Any other comments about community care? Next on our agenda is School Board Director, Dr. Jimmy Sullivan. Hello, Dr. Sullivan.
Evening, Commissioners. All right, first thing we have is budget amendments on our agenda. So on SharePoint, we are looking at the first, and then the actual budget amendments, the worksheet is the fourth attachment. So the wording is the first one, and then the item that goes with it, oh, sorry, it's been moved on yours, I believe, now that I see. Nope. First and third, sorry, first and third. So we're looking at Fund 141 Health and Education Agenda item, it says number 5, and then fiscal year 24-25 Fund 141 Amendment number 5. So let me read the first, Fund 141 Fund Balance Amendment. This budget amendment cleans up expenditure line items at mid-year. On the revenue side, the budget is amended to reflect state grant allocations not included in the original budget. On the expenditure side, the larger items of this cleanup amendment reflect the increase in cost of school maintenance supplies and parts, instructional support supplies and materials, security, cybersecurity, maintenance contracted services equipment, transportation equipment, and elementary school startup funds. This amendment has a net increase of both current year revenue and expenditures of $1,370,000 with no use of school fund balance.
And this one has the multiple sheets with the decreases and increases. Two sheets, looks like this. It has 1.8 moving over to increases and a decrease of 475 to equal the $1.3 million cleanup. Dr. Sullivan, any highlights on the increase side?
Yeah, there's a couple. If you look at 72-130-309, so that is just a change in how we operate. Schools get funds sent from the central office once we get our funds from the State Department. We require a certain number of SROs at our middle and high school athletic events, and we required schools to pay for those. But when we changed the number of SROs that they had to have at those events, we felt like it was, since we were requiring it, they were no longer actually making ends meet, so we sent extra funds. We sent them per school $10,000, so that's where you see those funds. The 72-130-499, that is a $200 teacher allocation. That used to be called BEP teacher allocation, but that's just where those funds.
You called the what?
The BEP teacher allocation. So
That came from the state, okay.
It still does. It's just a smaller line for where those teachers are funded from. Another one, 72-210-790, is teacher laptops in that line. And then 72-410-599, we send schools, the price for graduation has gone up as everything else has. We're grateful to use MTSU, but our price for MTSU graduations is over $15,000 per school, and so we now try to send them about $10,000 per school to help with that cost. Schools shouldn't have to fundraise to do graduation. That's a required ceremony for them, and so that all comes from state money that we send to them. And then last one, 72,710, that I'll highlight, 729, is radios for transportation equipment for our buses. So those are just a couple highlights of some of the bigger items. I think our mid-year cleanup last year was over a little close to 4 million, so this year it's 1.8 or 1.
And we've asked, just kind of a mutual agreement that the school board do a mid-year look. It's such a large budget. The county finance director doesn't do a mid-year report. But in building our relationship with the school board, this is the second or third year you've presented since you came on board.
Third year, hard to
So
believe. Yep.
this is just a way for us to just mid-year see how it's going, see if some new revenues come in. So thank you for that, Jimmy, or Dr. Sullivan, excuse me. So the recommended motion to amend Fund 141 to clean up expenditure line items for a net increase of $1,370,000 in both revenue and expenditure lines. I'll entertain a motion. Mr. Wilson.
Chairman, I move for the approval of the Fund 141 fund balance amendment as presented here today and to move it forward to budget.
Do you have a second? Discussion? Ms. Hill, call the roll, please.
Sir.
And this will be entertained at budget as well.
Commissioner Oliver?
Aye.
Commissioner Davidson?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd?
Yes.
Commissioner McMurray?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Chairman Dodd?
Yes.
Thank you.
Dr. Sullivan, Fund 177.
Now we have a Fund 77 amendment. So this is for Stewart's Creek High School. This amendment moves funds from account 34,685 committed for capital projects to account 91,300, 335 maintenance and repair services buildings in the amount of $200,000. The movement of this money from fund balance will go to replace Stewart's Creek High School's auxiliary gym floor, which was damaged due to a break in a water main in an adjacent mechanical room. It was determined by engineering department that the floor is not repairable and will need to be replaced. We are in the middle of athletic seasons where that floor needs to be replaced.
It was in the maintenance fund, you just moved it into an expenditure item.
Yes, it's actually in our Fund 177 fund balance. So
Okay.
we're asking to move that $200,000 over. And we are in conversations as well with our risk management about potentially being able to turn this in as well for risk management to have some of it recouped.
Okay. Motion is to amend 2024-25 Capital Projects Fund 177 by reducing 34685 committed capital projects and by increasing 91300 335 maintenance and repair in the amount of $200,000 as presented to replace a gym floor. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
I think I heard Commissioner Oliver with the motion.
Second.
Mr. McMurray. Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Oliver?
Aye.
Commissioner Davidson?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd?
Yes.
Commissioner McMurray?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Chairman Dodd?
Yes. Dr. Sullivan, is that an item that you can do quickly? Do you have a subcontractor that can move quickly? That's amazing. Yes. Next item, BOE update.
So this is something Dr. Martin started last time. I believe she was here and giving you all a handout of just updates of where we are. Nothing has changed on the front. On the back is just on the bottom, health and education updates, January 28th, 2025. I want to thank the commissioners that were able to attend, even if you were not able to attend our Smyrna High School edition ribbon cutting today. Again, thank the commission for approving that. It's great to see that facility. I don't want to get the gentleman in trouble, but our News 2 did a story today, I believe it was News 2, hope it was News 2. Okay, so News 2 had an accident with their camera today, and they were able to use our studio to be able to record the rest of theirs. So that was pretty impressive for them to be able to see that as the type of real world that our students, with y'all's generosity, to be able to support that with our kids. So thank you for that. We will go over kind of a budget process of what we're looking at here in just a minute. That's the second handout. Want to go over our enrollment, 51,870. You're going to notice that number is down. That number is down because it does not include early graduates. We are moving to a 4x4, which means students have an opportunity to earn a lot more credits, which is a way for us to give kids more opportunities, but it also allows students to graduate early. And so I anticipate students graduating early as we move every high school to a 4x4 next year. To give you the numbers, we had 632 students graduate in December. That is an amazing number when just a couple years ago we had less than 50 graduate early. So we had 632 students graduate early. They do not count in that enrollment of 51,870, but we do still receive funding for them. So we will receive funding for them for the rest of the school year, but they do not count in enrollment. So when you saw that number drop, we're still getting funding, they're just not counted as a student anymore. So next, our new middle school bid will be released in February. That will go out to bid in February 28th will be when that will be released. It will be open for bids, and bids are always open to the public. We'll have that date on March 20th. They're always open sealed bids in our Rutherford County School Board. Is that date probably going to be 1 o'clock at the time, I'm guessing? 2 o'clock. All right, 2 o'clock. I should have known that. I've said in enough of them. 2 o'clock at the Rutherford County Central Office for us to be able to come to Health and Ed on March 25th. So it'll go it'll go to bid on February 28th, opened March 20th at 2 o'clock at the Rutherford County Central Office Boardroom, and then hopefully for Health and Ed on March 25th. You're invited to the Teacher of the Year reception. We're doing that a little bit different this year. We're doing it in February. We used to do Teacher of the Year and retirement back to back the same week. That is a lot, and so we are splitting them up. Teacher of the Year reception is from 4 to 5:30 on Tuesday, February 25th. I wonder if we're meeting Tuesday, February 25th, are we? All ride together. So bus drivers, can you get us a bus? We can all ride right over together. So. And those are just kind of your overall highlights of what we are looking at. If you'll flip over, I did want you to see our overall budget of where we are.
Were you coming back to enrollment?
Discuss enrollment if you want.
Just, okay, I'm sorry.
We can go ahead and go to it if you want.
I just know we had a question about absentee.
Yeah, I can go over absentee rates. So beginning of the year, we sit at about 3% of absentee rates, and I'll give you some actual numbers here in just a second. December to February, we sit between 4 and 6%, usually with absenteeism, just depending on which viruses happen to go around. We're December 6th, I just asked our attendance person to pull some dates. December 6th, we had 2,782 students absent. December 9th, we had 2,780 students absent. Today we had 0 students absent. They weren't in because I said, how many students do we have absent? She was like, 0. And I forgot that we didn't have kids today.
That can't be good.
No, it was not good. December 13th is just an example. We had 3,107 students absent, 127, so was that yesterday? Monday, we had 3,278 students absent. I know those numbers seem high, but so yesterday was 93.7%. We're in that 4 to 6. Yesterday was 6.2. So it's a little bit higher, but if you've noticed, we have people sick right now. Happy to answer questions if needed around that. So
4 to 6 is your.
4 to 6 is what we look at, and so that's when you hear people talk about closing school system for absence.
Get to 10 or whatever.
We really need to be 20, 25 to close for sickness, which we don't get to. We just at that point you're at 10,000 students out, but you got 40,000 students who can get there. So You'll flip over to the back. This is just an overall, or the second page, sorry. This is an overall of our budget for this year. This does not include the 11 million or so that it was upfront in fund balance for charter school. This is just truly our Rutherford County School operating budget. I wanted to give you kind of a overview of there's not anywhere to cut. We've been talking for several years about the third year being the year that we had to, for operational purposes, move past maintenance of effort. Salary and benefits for us is 74.5% of this year's budget. Health insurance is 9.3%, and you see the dollars beside it. Contracts with vehicle owners, this is our bus contractors, is 27,000,005%. Utilities is 3.1%. Maintenance custodial supplies, 0.7, substitutes, 0.74 million, trustees commissions, 3.5. That liability insurance covers not just bus contractors, but also 3.5 million. Instruction is 1.7 million of 8.9, 1.7%, 8.9, and then other, CTE, special education. Last year, if you guys will recall, we cut textbooks down to 2 million. Our normal textbook line is about 8 to 10. We cut computers down to, I believe, 400,000. It had been $8 to $10 million. Outside of staff, we have nowhere else to cut. We are still an extremely small central office for our size. Sometimes I joke about, and I will tell you, I plan on adding, I haven't seen our department's request. I only plan on adding 2 positions potentially in our central office. I plan on adding somebody in Trey's department, whether that comes in some type of support role for his department to where he has nutrition, transportation, construction, engineering, everything there. And if public records continue to request the way they are, I may have to add something in legal because our public records requests, we get 3 to 7 a day. And it was not that way in the past for one attorney and then one paralegal to be able to handle. And that's what we plan on adding central office wise. I have told our central office no growth positions for this school year for our schools. With our rezoning, we will shift everything else around. The only growth positions will be for Poplar Hill. And so we are fine operationally, but we have to go with what we have basically. So we're out of places to cut outside of people for the most part. And as a growing district, we can't really cut people because we flip over the back. I wanted you to show you kind of where we are. We are proposing a 2.5% raise for our staff. 2.5% raise for our staff is $7.5 million. That is just how we are 6,600 employees. 2.5% is $7.5 million. We are by Tennessee Code annotated, our teachers have to get to $50,000 minimum by 26. That's next year, and we are not there yet. We're at about 47.4 or 47.6. Do what?
Is that the beginning rate?
Teacher salary,
fresh out of college?
Fresh out of college, yes, sir. We will not make it by this year, but if we do 2.5 this year and 2% the next year, we will get to it. That is not a great raise. It's not keeping up with cost of living. We've talked about with bus drivers. I know that they can't afford to be able to pay for the buses, and I totally understand that. Along with our bus drivers, no one basically that teaches in this county or works in this county can afford to live in this county any longer, and that is a whole nother conversation that we could discuss. But we're looking at a 2.5% raise, nothing more. Poplar Hill is going to cost $2.5 million in operational costs. We will transfer new positions from Blackman, Stewart's Creek, Browns Chapel, and Stewartsboro teaching positions. They'll have to hire principal, 1 assistant principal, librarian, gym teacher, music teacher, art teacher. Those positions can't be transferred from everywhere else because the other school has to have them to operate. And then just utilities for that new position. Utilities, we expect about $1 million increase. And then transportation is the unknown, 3 to 10 million, depending on what our school board decides to vote on with our conversation with our bus contractors.
May
If
I
you
pause
look at-
there? That gap, what does the 3 million represent? What is the 10?
So has been publicized. Our bus contractors have requested a 34.8% raise and then a 15% raise the next years after that. As I said there, and I don't think that's financially doable. That is up to the board to decide. As the director of schools, I don't believe that is something financially that we can do. But again, if you look at our current expenditures for buses, it was on the page before, we're at 27%, or at $27 million. Every 5% raise is about $1.4 million. So if we do a 10%, I was doing the bare minimum, 5%, and us covering the liability insurance, you're looking at about $3 million. Going all the way to the request of $35 million is $10 million. And again, that moves us into an additional $5 million every year moving forward. And that's not personal opinions, those are just numbers. That is what would be the recurring cost. $10 million this year, and then roughly $5 million every year after that. So that's why you see the gap of 3 to 10 million. I don't know. We have our next work session on February 4th with the bus contractors. Their attorney will be there as well. I know Mr. Reed, our school board attorney, and their attorney have talked. I don't know if they've talked today, but I know they talk. So that's kind of where we are in that and why it says $3 to $10 million. It is an unknown. I would expect that to continue through now and through April, up until April.
Commissioner Wilson, and do we want to, I sidetracked us with clarity on that. Do we want to, are you okay? Do we need to pause here and ask questions, or do you want to run through it? Will that work with you, Commissioner Wilson? And I'm sorry, I started the trend with that, but.
The next time that I do expect you all in April to see, we did cut science textbooks and high school computers from our budget this year. Our fund balance is well over $100 million. Michael knows that, Finance Director Smith knows that we've had this conversation. Of course, we haven't had it approved by the board, but our board is aware. We very well will plan on coming once the school board, we're in the middle of textbook adoption. Once they approve textbooks, the formal state required process, I expect to come and ask to take science textbooks and possibly computers from fund balance to be able to go ahead and purchase those. Property tax and sales tax came in higher last year. It went into fund balance. We're over $100 million. That would save a little bit of this year's upcoming budget without having to go from 141, yes. Not. Then you see the potential debt of 80 million and high school 150 to 200. I met with Commissioner Dodd last week, Ms. Maxwell and Michael Smith and Brian Runyon, my finance director, and we discussed looking at pretty much how can we as a school system make sure that we're being fiscally responsible as well with our buildings. And if there's any way we can save any funding, I feel like everything that we do to put our schools out to bid, but we want to make sure that we're being good stewards and building buildings that are 100-year buildings, but also being fiscally responsible as well. So we're open to conversations. I don't want to get to where we were 25 years ago, to where it was the school board and the county commission battling each other over who controls, who picks buildings and all that type of thing. But I do think there needs to be some dialogue there. You'll see new revenue. This is totally a projection. If the governor does a 3% raise to TISA, which I expect, that's totally just Jimmy up here guessing based on what he did last year. I think a lot of that is yet to be determined, but normally TISA has a cost of living adjustment. With the size of our district, that brings in $8 million. Much of that is earmarked towards teacher raises. He required that you get to 50,000. He earmarks in TISA and the form that we get what amount of that has to go to teacher raises. We are going to lose about 3 million of that for economically disadvantaged change. There was a change in Medicare and Medicaid back in August that we were serving about 8,600 economically disadvantaged students, and it is now down to 6,400. That is a nationwide trend. During COVID, any student that was treated and during that period with Medicare and Medicaid automatically was coded as economically disadvantaged, and they were coded for free reduced lunch, and that coding stopped in August. So districts across the state are losing a lot of money in economically disadvantaged. So that impacts us, not as much as other systems. Some systems are losing, big systems are losing $7 to $10 million. We're going to lose about 3. You will see we're only up about 100 students. Why are we only up about 100 students? Our 2 charter schools, of course, they will get funding for their students. Our 2 have about 400 total. And then we're not the authorizer for Rutherford Collegiate Prep. They were funded for about 750 students up front. Based on the number that I got from the state the other day, I believe they have about 420 kids. So the good news is we should get a true up, and some of that TISA money that was the 11 million should come back to us by the end of the year. But that's 800 kids that normally we would be getting funding for, that funding instead will go to the charter school because they are serving those students this year. So you're looking, depending on what transportation is, somewhere between $15 and $20 million of a shortfall. A lot of that depends on the governor's budget. A lot of that depends on what happens with charter schools. A very early preliminary look at where we are.
Thank you. And I think Trey asked, so that just the 15 to 20 million covers everything above.
Except science and high school computers. I would much rather science computers are a higher priority for me right now. Or science computers, science textbooks, sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry, They're from fund balance.
Yes.
Okay, I got you.
Yep.
They're from fund balance, okay, got it. And you cut them last year, you reduced your budget to come in on budget, and you were able to refund that through, you recommended refunding it through fund balance. Thank you. Commissioner Wilson, you had a comment earlier, if you'll start us.
Thank you, Chairman. Couple questions. I have so many, I have to go back and try to remember what they were as you were speaking. This 15 to 20 million shortfall, this is recurring expense. So we're looking at one time that you've brought up the plan of paying through that's about 13 million through 141 as a way to continue trying to help us. Of course, that is continually, we're spending down our fund balance reserves at 141. But that 15 to 20 million shortfall is actually not including the debt service we're talking about with what's going. So let me make sure I bring this up for everyone listening. A shortfall of 15 to 20 million dollars, that is just in recurring expenses on just operating in our budget. Let's talk about the debt service, which will also be money we're going to have to pay, and it's going to make that number higher. The middle school you're going to ask for here, hopefully in March, about 80 million you have here. That's about $6 million a year for 20 years, okay? So when we're talking about recurring, it's not just the 15, 20 million. That is a technical way that we're splitting up recurring from one-time expenses from debt service. So for everybody listening, recurring operating expenses are one thing. Debt service, which is the money that we're taking bond issues on to build these capital projects, is another fund separate from one time. You got to add this together. And the amount of money we're looking at needing to come up with in the next 6 months is it's beyond astonishing. It's starting to look impossible without some miracle of help from the state, which I don't believe is coming nearly to the amount we need. So $6 million for the middle school. Now we have approved the Laverne addition. That was $44 million. So I'm just putting this math together. That's $3.3 million for 20 years. Plus the middle school. So that's $9 million on those two things for 20 years. When do you expect to what's your timeline on bringing a bid for the high school? That's my first question.
Expect to, I believe the land for the high school should be coming before the board in the next 30 to 45 days.
Now, that is not on this sheet at all, not a dollar.
I would hope that would be included, and my plan is for that to be included in the 150 to 200 million.
So because I've heard estimates were going to be much higher. It sounds like that's a best case scenario. Am I fair to say that?
Expect it to be within
Okay.
this 150 to 200.
So let's look at the high school. So when do you expect to ask for that bid? The reason I'm asking is this. That's going to be, let's go $150 million. That's $11 million annual payment for 20 years.
I can't imagine it's 150.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm talking about when you ask for the high school.
Yes, yeah. Oh, no, it's going to be more than that. I
So
would guess 180
I'm
at the
just
minimum.
trying to be
Yeah.
fair. I'm going to the lowest number. The lowest number is still something that should actually frighten us on what we're looking for. So if it's 150, it's $11 million for 20 years. Okay. If it's 200 million, that's $15 million recurring. When were you thinking the bid might come? I know we're far off, but here's what I'm getting to. We're looking at approving the budget for the next fiscal year. So if that's going to come within the next year and a half, that means they're asking for a high school in the budget we're about to put together in 6 months. That is all of these shortfalls. That is $9 million adding in there for Laverne in the middle school. That is 11 to 15 million. I'm just making sure everyone hears all of these numbers. And that's why I wanted to know, if that ask is coming for the high school within the next fiscal budget, we have to plan for that now.
I would love to tell you I could get it here in January or February, probably the same time, March next year, for the actual bid for the high school.
So that would be inside this budget, where we'd be looking at trying to figure out how to do this without even thinking about funding that high school until the next fiscal budget.
Mr. Wilson, one question. The $15 to $20 million shortfall, does it not include the debt service on those two?
That's recurring expenses, Chairman. It does not. That's what we're saying. The debt service is different than the recurring shortfall. That's what I wanted to make sure is clear. It was starting to sound like we were going to leave the table tonight thinking 15 to 20 million is the number. That is only recurring expenses.
Plus
Debt service is what we have been trying to get help with the state on through all of our efforts, including the adequate facilities tax increase, what's going on with the real estate transfer tax appropriation, and the other things we're working on have been to try to get help on these capital projects. The 15 to 20 million is only recurring. We're looking at y'all's 9 million plus 11. We're looking at $20 million annually for 20 years on debt service on these next two schools. That's where we are. I just want to be sure that is extremely crystal clear to everyone listening, because as we debate and have discussions on all of these negotiated things coming up, this is what we're looking at. If you throw it all up there, this is what to figure out. And everything we can't afford, the kids are going to be overflowing out of the schools. The kids are going to be in portables. So, I mean, we have to put all of this in perspective. And the thing, Chairman, last thing I want to say, and then I want to stop, is this is education. We haven't done anything about public safety. We haven't done anything to give our cops and firemen additional funds. We're not doing anything more for our county employees than we've done thus far. We haven't even discussed what's going to go on as we plan for a solid waste solution. So I just want to take a few minutes and make sure that this is being conveyed properly, recurring plus debt service, because to us, it's all part of having to have recurring funds.
And that brings us to just one comment. The budget, let's just walk the seven of us and the listening public through the budget process. What you guys are obviously working on it. You're opening your books to us. You're meeting with our finance director. Trey, if you remind us, our joint budget meeting is May, I believe. Sorry to put everybody on the spot, but
May 27th.
we're highlighting this, but over the course of each month now, the ask will be more clear. You're building us up for the ask is going to be significant. But if that sounds overwhelming, the next month, we're going to have more details, and then we will get budgets presented in a draft in March and joint meeting in May. Joint meeting, we will meet with the Health and Ed Committee, will meet with the Board of Education. We will discuss their budget. After that, the Budget Committee will come straight in and entertain the budget as well. And then we've got some open nights at the very end of the budget season. If there's any concerns, we have an open date at the end of June to handle controversies. So thanks for bringing that up, but we will continue to have opportunities to look at this. You, and then I have a couple of comments, please.
That's something that I know one of the big one that gets attention to our bus contractors. I've mentioned multiple times that I had a bus contractor. I rode the bus till I was in almost middle of 9th grade. I just have to look at dollars and operate the entire budget, and so it is not personal. I'm just trying to operate and provide a well-balanced budget for the entire school system. To our county commissioners, if you were not aware, under BEP, we were provided money as a school system for transportation. We were provided a little bit over $8 million the last time that we received funding. Under TISA, all of that was rolled into the base funding. However, if you're a school system, and the only one that I know of that does not provide transportation is Tullahoma City. There could be another one, I don't know. But apples to apples, Tullahoma City can provide more to their teachers, to their students, to whoever they need because they don't provide transportation. That is not what we plan to do whatsoever. But it was one of those, I think, unintended consequences of TISA that you almost are asking districts not to put funding towards transportation because there's no longer any financial benefit to do so. And that's tough when you're trying to put an entire budget together. The 35% request is tough because when I look at that, I don't see it just as a $35 million. I see that as a 7-cent property tax increase. When I balance it with, I have to look with my entire staff. And I have to look at it with staff, I'm looking at 2.5%, and I have to balance all of it. And so just know I'm not trying to be derogatory or dismissive. I'm just trying to balance all of it together. So just know that I appreciate all that you guys do too. So.
Thank you. I delayed a couple of questions. Just want to come back to the very beginning. The administrative growth positions you mentioned are not just the central office on Southgate. It's the administrative offices in the schools. Correct. You're keeping that at no growth. That includes principals' offices and so forth. Okay.
It would be Poplar Hill.
Agreed. And then the next thing I wanted to highlight that we are doing an analysis of the cost per square foot. Dr. Sullivan mentioned that. The asks are large. This commission has an obligation to be stewards of that dollar, and we want to compare it to other counties and make sure our price per square foot has a basis in Middle Tennessee expenses. And so I just want to make you all aware that we are doing an analysis on that as well. The school board volunteered to bring that to us. Thank you, Dr. Sullivan. Absolutely, yeah.
I had
we
more
have one
questions.
microphone. Trey started first, so let's Trey go, and then Ms. Oliver.
Just real quick, on the $7.5 million, 2.5%, is that classified and certified?
Yes, sir.
And that's the local portion?
That's everything.
That's the state portion too?
It's all of it. Yes, sir.
Okay, and just to see if you had any feedback from the Stewart's Creek that their band experience at the inauguration. Have any
Amazing.
feedback on
I want
that?
to thank everybody that worked behind the scenes to be able to make sure that they were able to perform. That was amazing. And just the community, because it was just nonstop, not performing, not performing. What are they going to do? When are they getting back? That was just awesome. Absolutely awesome. You also have for your reading pleasure our new strategic plan the board adopted. I know that is just the thing you've been waiting on, just on pins and needles. So during your reading pleasure, it is riveting.
Commissioner Oliver.
Yes, I have a few questions. I guess I'll start here. We were served I would say, disturbing email from Robert Stevens. So I was wondering if you can give us an update on the renovations at Riverdale and Oakland and what all of that is about, because that was kind of news to me.
I'm meeting with Mayor McFarland. That has been a constant discussion with the city. Are there frustrations? There are. We do not have those same conversations or roadblocks with other municipalities. And I'm meeting with Mayor McFarland in the next week to see if we can work through some things. I'm going to leave it at that until that meeting.
So it kind of looks like more funding is needed than what was anticipated.
That is not, no. More funding is not needed. It was just extra cost by being into the city of Murfreesboro for permitting fees, which the city feels like that is something that they can do because and rightfully so, they charge their own schools permitting fees when they build. When we deal and work with other municipalities, like when we opened the addition at Smyrna today, that is not the process that we follow because we are a county entity and a county government. So we have state inspections that would trump a city inspection. And so that has been the county school system stance and remains the county school system stance.
So we didn't know that ahead of time, is what you're saying? That they were wanting to inspect and have permitting fees?
It is a constant that we work through and try to be as amicable as possible. And continually work through different parts of that relationship.
Okay, all right. And I'm going to ask the same question that I asked our Health Department Director. How will freezing of federal funds impact operations? You just talked about budget and things of that nature. So
we don't expect it to right now. Of course, that was information today, and our federal programs director, a lot of the programs that we operate were not impacted by that legislate or executive order, and so we still expect to operate as normal.
okay.
If anything changes, we will let you know, but I
Yeah,
don't
you'll
expect
update
that.
us if you see that.
And then my final question is pertaining to the resolution that came out of your school board, and wondering what precipitated that. Reasoning being is that Tennessee is not at the top of the list when it comes to immigration. Most immigrants are in New York, California, Florida. So what precipitated the need to make that kind of statement as it relates to our families and our students that we're here to serve?
That was an action that was taken on by the school board, and so that was not at a request of our county school system. But I do believe you'll see an update to that on the next agenda when it's published.
Yeah, because I thought it was shameful. I really did.
What was the resolution?
The resolution was to, and I have it right here, expedite the closure of borders, as to say that that's affecting our enrollment here in Tennessee, which directly is not. And Spanish is not the only language that we speak, that our students speak. So I thought that was rather distasteful for a board that's supposed to be serving all of the students of Rutherford County to take that kind of stand on a certain demographic. I just thought it was shameful. I shared that with one of the school board members, and I just want that to be on the record, because we're here to serve all of them.
Thank you, Dr. Sullivan.
Mr. Chairman, before
Yes, sir.
you leave, Dr. Sullivan, I know the chairman indicated that a cost per square foot analysis is part of the consideration that we're going through. But I'd just like to know, and I know that you probably know that right now, the $180 million bucks is the number that we keep hearing for the next high school. What is that figure per square foot?
And we're seeing some, we want to make sure our price per square foot is including appurtenances, peripheral things, or if it's just the square footage of brick and mortar. So we want to make sure that number sounds high compared to other districts, and other districts may be using different materials. Other districts may not include aspects that we, quote, lump into our price per square foot. That gets a turnkey job. It may not be FF&E, so we got to make real sure that our price per square foot is apples to another district that may publish a $200 per square foot building. That's the question we've asked the school board to help.
I'd take that right now for a portable.
So it is staggering numbers. Mr. McMurray.
I would just like to go on record and say, you all got us the other night, so we'll get you next time. Vanderbilt in Tennessee.
Oh,
I'll be there too, so it's going to be ugly.
I think if we're on Vandy UT, we're done. If no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. We're adjourned.